Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May. We know her as the extraordinary psychologist therapist who comes on and talks to us and gives us wonderful information. But she has a background in clinical, organizational, and forensic psychology. She is currently the president of A.M. May and Associates, a counseling, consulting, and coaching company, a member of the board of trustees for the Michigan Health Council, a member of the Drug-Free Youth in Detroit Advisory Council, and she is faculty at Wayne County Community College District in Detroit. She is also, if that wasn't enough, an international vocalist, instrumentalist, and recording artist. She is the founder and president of Celeste Productions. She is the author. Yes, guys, she's an author of the book Freedom: What is the Experience of Living Without Negative Self-Imposed Limitations? And she's also a public speaker. And this evening, she is here to talk to us about a return to office politics. We are all going back to the office. There's lots of conversations. So we're going to get into that conversation. But welcome, Dr. Angie. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm doing fantastically well. Wonderful to be on with you as always.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so let's get right to it. So we are returning to the office. We have the big three right now, which are the automaker, UAW. They are going through strikes and people are talking about some of the things that they're asking for. I've heard 4-day work week, more money, and I've also heard from the other side where CEOs have said all remote workers need to come back to the office. And every time a CEO says that, usually something happens in their company and their company tanks, which is always funny to me. You know, people got used to having this I can work from home lifestyle during COVID. I know realistically, it is not for everyone. There are just some jobs that you just have to be in the office to do, unfortunately. But for many people, there is the option that you can work from home. But I want us to think about what happens when we return to the office. So many people thought COVID came and we learned lessons and we learned how to support each other and learn how to wash our hands and do all these things. And oftentimes we have come right back to some of those same troubling situations that people said, I don't like going into the office. It's too much peopling. And so
Peopling.
it's too much peopling. And so I've heard this from people. They're like, there's too many distractions in the office. There's too many people talking. There's too many events and there's food and everybody's bringing in donuts and cakes and all these different things. But one of the conversations that I keep seeming to have is people will say, what do you do when someone is trying to undermine you? There seems to be this effort across the board at different companies. Everybody is trying to outdo one another to showcase themselves because people, are looking for more money. They're looking for a bump up in position, title, whatever it is. But it comes down to people are undermining each other. And so, you have the person who's doing the undermining, of course, and then you have the person who's being undermined. And, different people can react differently. And we live in a society today where people are very quick to pull out a weapon and fire. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And people are like, well, they just didn't respect me, or they weren't listening to me, or whatever the issue is. But Dr. Angie, I know I've given you a lot, but just talk to us about how we should respond when we are at the hands of someone who's trying to undermine us.
Well, there are, as is often the case, multiple possible answers for that. I think one of the first places to start when someone tries to undermine us is to remind ourselves of a couple of things. First of all, remind ourselves that I started to say still have value, that we still have value. And the reason I say still is because when someone tries to undermine us, whether it's at work or in our personal lives or whatever, it can definitely impact the way we see ourselves. It can impact our self-esteem. It can impact the way we view ourselves, the way we perceive our strengths, all of those kinds of things. So there's definitely an impact, psychological, and a mental impact, and even a physical impact. If you think in terms of tying the way we think about things, if someone is trying to disdain us or put us down or whatever the case may be, try to get in the way of being our best selves. I mean, think about, how does that make you feel? It can make you feel like, angry, frustrated, even sad or down, disappointed. There's a lot of emotional responses that can go along with that, and the thoughts that go along with that as well. All of those things are tied together and tied to our physical health. So that's why I say we're still would remind ourselves that we have value, and no matter what others are trying to do, our value doesn't change. So we're still valuable people. That's one of the first things I think universally we all need to keep in mind, that we retain our value no matter what is going on outside of us and around us. There's research, some of it not so new, some of it even in the last couple of years or so, that specifically talks about this idea of social disdain, disdain within the workplace, exactly the thing that you're talking about, and talks about how it can and does impact the way we see ourselves. So I think that, or I would say, starting with that reminder and of our value and holding on to that first and foremost, in that self-talk, or the things we say to ourselves, is important. That's I think one of the most important things. And that helps safeguard our, gosh, what time is it? I'm having trouble with my native language here. I do speak English, it's my native tongue. It helps guard our mentality as well as our physical health and rising stress. It helps to guard us from some of the damage that we can take on to our self-esteem. So that's one of the first things I would say. Reminding ourselves of our value. That's one. Another thing is, when possible, sometimes it's not possible in the moment, but try to get an understanding of why people are doing it. It's exactly like you said. You actually alluded to that, because you said people are trying to get ahead, prove their worth, move forward in the company, all those kinds of things. So people, not everyone, but when folks tend to do that undermining, they may, I would say misconstrue the idea of advancement, confusing advancement with necessarily having to mean putting somebody else down. You can't advance without, and I would encourage advancing without that. So trying to understand why people are doing it. If they're doing it to propel themselves forward, if they're like you said, if they're doing it to try to move ahead in their own career, that's important, because it tells you or lets you know how you might want to respond to it. If people are doing that, as many are, just like you said, to move themselves forward, it kind of lets you know that it's not something that you have done personally that's causing them to do that. That you are not less than or anything like that. They're just trying to go get ahead using negative tactics. So trying to understand why they're doing it. Again, same idea. It can help safeguard your feelings of feeling, less than or hits to your self-esteem. And then it can also give you more information about how to respond. There are a variety of ways of responding. We do not want to take our guns out. We don't want to have guns present to take out. We don't want to do that at the workplace. So we don't want to go that route. But we also don't want to take out negative weaponry in terms of other means, like, verbally putting someone down or going on the attack, or any of those kinds of non-physical weapons that are equally as, or can be, nearly equally as damaging to reputations and just overall. So as we try to understand why people are doing that, you can respond by ignoring them. That's always an option. Sometimes it feels like it's not. But ignoring meaning, don't step in the ring with them. Don't play that game with them. Just as they say, keep your head down, keep doing your work. That's one option. I know a lot of people will say, but I need to respond to it or answer it in some way, which I totally understand. You can respond to it with the power of positivity and truth. And what that means is, depends on how they're undermining you. If they're trying to undermine you by spinning false stories, also known as lies about the value of your work or what you're doing or what you said or anything like that, and you just hold on to speaking the truth, that is not what happened, etc. You know, telling your truth, saying how it, how it actually went, that is a weapon. And what strengthens that weapon as a positive weapon, what strengthens that weapon is always, 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 always a paper trail. So documentation, talk about the workplace, document when someone tries to undermine you, depending on how it is, how they may try to do it, that can help a lot in the immediacy, because it can help you feel like you're taking some control of the situation. And then in the long term, if things escalate, and even if they don't, well, if they escalate and it comes back around to the point where superiors or others are actually taking what they're saying about you or trying to do to you seriously and wanting to, address it, you will have a documented history of what went on, who said what, and don't forget dates and times, dates, times, and names of who said what, and then also documenting how you responded. So those are some ways you can respond. Again, it makes you feel like you have some control. You do have some control, more than some. It makes you feel that you're not just a victim. Those are some healthy ways that you can fight back. When people try to undermine you, there are so many ways people will try to do stuff like that. Whether it's what they say, or it could just be the way they say certain, all kinds of things. You're always being looked over for promotions and other opportunities that you have earned. So there are a variety of ways, but I think those are two really important responses. A third thing that we can do is seek out mentors. If you don't already have someone. A lot of times, if you're new on the job, it makes sense to seek that out, but we don't often think about mentorship if you've been there for a while. And even if you've been there for a while or been in your profession, in your field for a while, it may not be a formal mentor, as we define a mentor, but it can be a colleague, it can be a friend within work, and even someone outside of work who has nothing to do with work. But the purpose of having someone like that is for your support, to encourage you, to bounce ideas off of when these things come up about how you might approach it. And also your networks as well. So there's the support network for yourself, but there's also networks in terms of if people know people who they might help be a support to you in those situations. So that's a third thing too. Those are some things that come to mind right away.
Those are excellent points. And I agree. You have to document, you have to paper trail. You don't always have to respond. And I've learned this just over my career. However, I know there are people who struggle with, oh, I need to say something. I just need to say something. Because every time somebody needs to say something, this person keeps bringing my name up all the time. And so for mental strength and mental wellness, sometimes people develop anxiety and depression, and we joke about it. We see it on social media. People are like, oh, I'm here at the office again. Oh, the place, and a job is not supposed to be stressful like that, regardless as to what it is that you do. You can be an attorney, you can be a doctor, you can be a psychologist, you could be a customer service rep, you can manage a grocery store, a restaurant, whatever it is. It should be something that is pouring something into you because you enjoy doing it. But for so many people, that whatever that profession or job that they have has so many negatives attached to it, not just even just with management. And we know that managers are one of the leading indicators for the reason why people leave jobs. But I
Mhm.
always tell people, I said, sometimes we have these toxic workplaces
Yeah.
where it's gossipy. Everybody, it's just in everybody's business and, what have you. And when the quiet person comes in, they're like, why aren't you talking? What are you hiding? You're like, I'm not hiding anything. I'm doing my work.
Right.
I get paid to be here from 9 to 5 to do X, Y, and Z. But for mental stability, for mental strength, to people to guard themselves, what are some things that you would say to help someone if they were struggling? For example, if you have someone who every time something goes wrong, oh, it's such and such's fault, even though it's not. And
Mhm.
it's been documented that this person has said this over and over again, that it's always somebody else's fault when in fact it's theirs, which
Mhm.
that goes back to a company issue because at a certain point, when you keep pointing fingers or casting aspersions on somebody, it's time for you to go because you can't do your job. But for the person who's facing that, who pulls up into the parking lot every day and looks at the building like, didn't I just leave from here? I just left from here yesterday. Why am I back here again? Knowing it's Tuesday and they still have another 3 days to go. What would you advise that person to guard themselves mentally?
I would go back to what you were saying in the earlier part of the question when you were talking about well, you were talking about guarding, of course you're talking about
Mhm.
guarding and our well-being. But when you were talking about how which is true, after a while, or maybe even not after a while, folks are like, oftentimes itching to say something in response. So I want to grab that a little bit and then
Okay.
talk more about ways in which we can guard ourselves, like you're saying. Um, our verbal responses, I would say that is part of, uh, can be part of guarding ourselves mentally and emotionally, at guarding ourselves against the anxiety a little bit. And that is for the same reasons. That's because of the same reasons as I was saying about those other things like the documenting and having a colleague or a mentor, someone to talk things through, etc. All of those things, again, they help to put the power back in your hands. You feel like that you're doing something, that you can do something to affect some kind of change, and if not an actual company change, but at the very least, you can how you can handle your space. So, in terms of the verbal responses, there are there are several responses, again, depending on how those slings and arrows are being thrown at you. One is I was just reading about a colleague of mine who just wrote an article about the same thing, similar, talking
Mhm.
about not the work, well, the workplace partially, and then just social disdain as well. And one of the things that she talked about, which I totally tell people to do as well, and have done myself, and that is responding with positivity. That's one part, and then also modeling behavior. Um, my mom was just the queen of that one. She was the queen of that, and I learned that from her. So what does that mean? So what does that look like? So that looks like, for example, like you were saying, let's take that example of, you're always the one that people try to maybe not people, but that one or two folks or people try to scapegoat. It's your fault, it's always your fault. Now, it's kind of like the advice that there's a series of videos out there on YouTube or whatever where they're teaching people, how do you deal with a narcissist? What do you say when a narcissist? How do you? And one of the things that people that some of these experts say that we do tell people is don't engage, limit the contact so you don't give them anything to work with. So what I'm advising and what I'm encouraging and suggesting is similar to that. So if someone says, uh, comes around to your desk, your cubicle, whatever, and says, so and so said that you did, it's your fault again. Here is one response. Okay. And continue working. You give them nothing. Like, okay. Go ahead. Continue. I'm giving you nothing. Well, doesn't that bother you? No. Have a good day. And then you just keep doing what you're doing. Just give them nothing. Give them nothing. Drives people crazy. Now, I'm not saying to do that because so that you can drive them crazy. But people, you know, that negativity, that toxicity that you mentioned, people feed off of it. That's how it grows, like a fungus in the dark.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Fungus in the dark. So, you know, shine some light on it, put some sunshine on it. It can sound counterintuitive, but it feels very powerful to realize that, you know what, you actually can't make me respond. You actually cannot. And that's that, you know, taking my power back, you know, kind of feeling. I'm not going to feed it and engage in it. You can't make me a victim of this or make me respond. I'm going to, this is very powerful, choose how I'm going to respond. And there is certainly there's that thing about plastering the smile on the outside while you're fuming on the inside. The fuming on the inside, yes, that does bring the anxiety up. That's good for our blood pressure, etc., hypertension. So you do want to not just practice the outer, but really and truly that internal self-talk. You really do want to again remind yourself of your value. They're doing what they're doing. This really has nothing to do with me, and that can feel difficult because it, you know, a lot of people say, but they're clearly targeting me. You're right, they are targeting you. But when we say that has nothing to do with you, we mean they're targeting you because they lack strengths, they're insecure, they are hiding and using you as, you know, to distract. They, you know, it's about their negative stuff. I would, you know, just throw a caution in there as far as, you know, we do encourage people to pause and look in the mirror, ask some questions, again with that trusted friend or colleague, you know, bounce some things off. Maybe there are some things that I'm doing or that may be engendering some of that or whatever the case. And sometimes it can be as a little thing as, again, not to be like fake or anything, but a little thing like, you know, you may be the one who comes in, makes a beeline for your, you know, your office or your desk. You don't talk to anybody, you leave. And so that, you know, antisocial looking kind of attitude can again, people can choose this to have choices. You're not making anyone respond this way, but it can feed into an idea that, you know, oh, she's got a problem. Now, does that mean go and just party with everyone when you were just really not feeling like it? No, that's not what that means. But, you know, a pleasant hi, how are you doing? Or whatever the case, just in terms of navigating the social space and the workplace. If that's an issue, you know, again, we want to balance it with, you know, being honest with ourselves. Sometimes people I have spoken to sometimes when we're talking and I ask them a few questions about how they are at work, and they may be, you know, people are going through things at home. Things have nothing to do with the workplace, and they bring that with them, which we know many people do. It can be hard not to, for sure. Don't have the energy to put on a plastic smile or anything like that. But if you think of it in terms of not a plastic smile so much as just trying to hold a bit of positivity, it helps yourself feel a little bit better, and it can help to, you know, help to detoxify a little, even if it's just a little bit, your environment. If you think of it more along those lines, that you really are trying to bring some positivity because you're having a difficult time, and maybe spread that a little bit, it can feel less fake, and it can help the situation depending. Sometimes it doesn't, but well, I think positivity always helps in some way. But yeah, responses that are non-response, that are warm but non-responses, like no, move on.
I love it.
Or
I
wait, or the
love it.
famous one right here.
That's right.
You know, those. And then there, you know, and then other verbal responses, like again, you know, depends on how it's coming to you or whatever. Um, uh, some things to keep in mind are always keep it professional.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want to go after people personally, in your responses, typed or verbal, none of that. Definitely don't type.
Right.
But
Don't type it.
okay, keep it professional, keep it about the work. And to a limited degree, and when I say limited, I mean, don't tell folks all your business or anything like that, but trying to spread a little positivity, asking a little bit to maybe build some relationships. How was that birthday party? That's wonderful. You take a moment, then move on. But yeah, it depends. But I think generally speaking, keeping it professional. Don't go after them personally, even if they come after you
Mm-hmm.
personally. Try to bring it down to a personal level. Don't get down in the mud with them. Keep it up here, and warm in terms of just being a person of warmth and positivity that people, no matter how hard they try, just are not going to be able to get you to act out.
Mm-hmm.
At least not where they can see you at work. Pardon me, I'm turning on my fan. I'm getting warm.
It's
Sorry about
okay.
that.
That's okay. But so that's a great segue. I think that your answer, your response to not giving someone the response, because oftentimes I see it. You know, you'll be in a fast food restaurant. My kids love fast food. Somebody's got attitude. That person is ready to come across the corner or across the counter. And
Across
next
the
thing,
county, yeah.
yeah, and the next thing you know, it's her, and you're like, okay, wait, can we just get our food so we can get out of here? I didn't even want to come in here, but my boys wanted to come in here. Can I just get what they wanted? Or, the latest thing where people are driving and there's construction everywhere in Michigan, and I mean on every road there is construction, and it's almost as if impatience has gone up 400%, and things that were always normal, you have signs that say you must come over to the left or you must come over to the right, and so you see everybody's driving and everybody's merging over, but you get that one person who waits to the last minute. Somebody's going to do it. Okay, why are you being mean? I'm not going to let you in. I'm just going to.
Yeah.
And so then, you're the person behind them, or a couple people, and you like, come on, we are going the same way, apparently, at least in this direction. You have people who are in different places, and I've heard people say this, I was going to shoot such and such, but they were always so nice to me. And that fascinates me, Dr. Angie, because whenever you find these people who shoot up a place, and they'll and sometimes if they survive, and they'll ask them, well, why didn't they shoot such and such? Or there'll be a survivor who will say, why did they think? And they will say, because I was always nice to him. And
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. And so I think you're correct in one, not feeding into that. That is the power that we hold as individuals. But two, there is a power in not feeding that monster, because as you said, that monster can take on its own sort of power if you keep feeding it. It's like the negativity you talked about, growing in the dark, and essentially depression and a lot of mental issues. A lot of people feel like they're in the dark until they get medication or until they get talk therapy. I would just encourage people, if you're feeling not heard, your workplace is not the place for you to go. Someone said to me many years ago, and it took me a long time to realize it, the people you work with are not your friends. You won't know if you're friends until after you leave. And then if you still are friends, then you were friends. And I thought, wow, that is true. But so many people, because we spend so much time at work, it becomes, this whole notion of having a work wife or a work husband. These are my work friends. We're going out for drinks. We're going for lunch. We're doing all these things and yet expect it to be quote unquote like family. And of course, I'm a graduate of TikTok University, and TikTok University says whenever you have people who say, yes, I said TikTok University, whenever people say that we are like family, they're like, that's a toxic work environment. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's not. I don't know. But
So I'm sorry. So you're saying that in TikTok University, people
I
say
did.
that whenever someone says that our work colleagues were like family, then others
Yes.
are the response is that automatically that's a toxic environment.
Toxic. Yes. Which I find
No,
interesting. Share
that's
your
not
thoughts.
true.
No?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
share your thoughts.
that sounds like pop psychology,
Okay.
or someone heard something and took a part of it, and then now that's all work environments that are all
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um or like yeah, like took a part of some study, or a part of like there most definitely you can psychologically misconstrue those ties and get yourself hurt,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that they're closer than they really are, all true.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to be really careful about all and what every workplace that we ever
Yeah.
heard of that we know nothing about automatically, well, it's just toxic. That's not that is not necessarily the case. People talk about some of these terms from different theorists, like enmeshed, these enmeshed relationships where
Mm-hmm.
you can't extract yourselves from each other. So people here we're like a family, and maybe learned something or heard or read something about an unhealthy enmeshed relationship, and so they think that that's what they're talking about. So it's not a one. My response is it's not a one size fits all, and you want to be very careful about diagnosing, particularly if your PhD comes from TikTok, which mine does not. Does not.
Thank you, Dr. Angie.
But it can be a source of some information, but I would say go farther, go beyond, go beyond it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go beyond. That's why I always bring stuff to you, because I hear it on TikTok and I'm like, well, it's TikTok University. Well, is this true? Is this not true? So there we have it.
Not necessary. Yeah. Not necessary. And I want to go back to something you said that I thought was so powerful and so
Sure.
true, that we really don't give enough credence to, enough credit to. I was saying it as one of the tools, you said it, and that's the idea of just how much power we have to effect change in those toxic environments with positivity. When I was talking about modeling behavior as one of the ways that we can respond, modeling with the warmth and everything, not only does being nice to someone, like you were saying in those examples, not only does that make us feel better and can calm situations down, and even and also inject some positivity into what might have been or maybe was up to that point a more negative interaction, but we don't know how much that might lift somebody else's spirits, number one. And then who knows what they're going through, that your kindness or a kind word or asking how they're doing may make a difference for them. Because when we talk about toxic environments, those are the elements of toxic environments.
That's
People
right.
snap at each other. They don't ever, engage anything. So you put some of that into that, and that can help, topple some of that toxicity. But also, it is modeling behavior, meaning you're showing people other ways that they can respond, that maybe they've just gotten, it's so easy to get into these psychological and behavioral habits that we forget that we have options. So how when you're in some less like negative situations like that, and people typically respond in the same way, and then you introduce somebody who actually responds differently, and it's like, oh, there may be different responses, like, well, what's her problem, or she's just being fake. But for some folks in there, it could be, oh, okay, it's a gentle way of calling into question the assumption that we have to respond in this negative way. we actually could respond in a positive way. And, so, and there's a lot of power in it. There's a lot more than I think than we sometimes realize.
And I think that is a powerful and that is a great way to end our show. One of the things that I always say to people, always give a smile, always give a hug. You never know, you might be helping the person next to you. You might even be helping yourself because we all have
Absolutely.
down days, no matter who we are. And
That's right.
sometimes, and I know I've had it. I've had a bad day where, you know, I might just walk past somebody and somebody will say, I love that outfit that you're wearing, or you look really great today, or I liked what you said, or something, and it brightens the whole mood.
Absolutely.
So just as we can be positive, that can help build us up. We can be negative, and that can help tear us down.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I was sitting here dropping things as we were speaking. I did want to
Please do.
I want to quote from
Yes.
from my book. And it's I continue to be just really I have to say amazed by this, it's such a just a little study that I did with these people from different walks of life, but how, it almost doesn't matter what different topics we talk about on your podcast. There's something in here from one of the people I interviewed as they talked about their journey from going from feeling limited in their life in any way, personally, in their career, in the development of their talent, whatever it is, to feeling, a sense of freedom from that. There always seems to be something that fits. So when you told me we were talking about this today, I literally opened to this page. What page is this? This is page 74 in the book. And this is where my interviewees, the people I interviewed for the study, were sharing how they felt, aspects of how they felt when other people, which is what you're talking about, other people were contributing to their feeling limited or giving them messages about what they couldn't do. And this one particular gentleman that was one of the people I interviewed, I thought was really interesting that he was saying, he used the term gestalt. So I'm going to read this for a quick second. Okay. So this gentleman, the names were changed, all the names were changed. So Al, I called him Al. He put it in a way in which he recognizes how confining it can be to try to live up to other people's fragmented views of himself or a person. So I thought that I'm going to read the rest of this quote, but that was so interesting, I thought, because of the research I had talked about at the beginning of our conversation, when I was saying that there's research about social disdain and disdain in the workplace, et cetera, where it can impact your view of yourself. And to your point, and to what we were talking about, if we respond with something positive, it can help turn that around for that person and for ourselves. So what he went on to say was, he said, the folks in question, my parents, my girlfriend, the bandmates, my employers, they didn't see the gestalt of it all. So gestalt, of course, means, that he says it, that idea that we are more than the sum of our parts. We're not just an employer. You're not just a mom. Although if you were just a mom, that would be wonderful. You're not just, running everything over there at the university. Although if you were just running everything, that'd be great. You're not just a pet mom, you're all those things. So he said that they didn't see the gestalt, if you will, of the whole package. They didn't see the global me. What they saw was the son, the employer, the employee, the boyfriend, the guitar player, and they just kind of reinforced my role in those various arenas, which was not reinforcing my well-being and interest, but theirs. So that was perfect encapsulation because, like I said, he talked about how, and it's the same thing with work or any environment that you're in when people disdain you. They're dealing with their own stuff. They're dealing with how they view you through a negative lens. That is not all that you are. Often it's not any of what you are if it's the way that they see you, and that's not accurate. But even still, again, from his quote, what he's saying is he recognized that they were seeing him through a lens that satisfied what they needed to see.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody, like you were saying in the very beginning, if someone needs to scapegoat someone and then they tell themselves, oh, I'm the perfect, you over there, you're the perfect scapegoat, that's how they're going to see you. And again, you have the power to not play that game, to respond with positivity, to not get near, stay above it, etc. But again, recognizing why people do what they do. You may not
Mm-hmm.
always know, but you can understand that you have a choice as to how you respond to it, and that whatever the issue is, whatever the circumstance, in terms of valuing yourself, you are many positive things, and you have many positive things to give to the world. And to remind yourself, and to try every day. We're not perfect, we make mistakes, we get mad, all of that, but try to live that as much as you can in positive ways, and it will help change a toxic situation, and it will feed your own well-being.
Excellent, Dr. Angie. What a great way to end our show. Thank you for being on the Kim B. Davis Show. Before we get out of here, please tell us all the things that you have going on, and you have a lot, and tell us how we can follow you on social media. Tell us where we can reach you. Tell us how we can get your book, how we can listen to your music, all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for always giving me that platform to share. I appreciate it always. You can find me for the psychology parts of what I do. You can find me at ammayassociates.com. That is the website for my company that I share with my sister and business partner, Michelle May. And you can find out what we're doing in terms of coaching and consulting and counseling and all that good stuff. You can also, on the music side, you can go to reverbnation.com / Angela Celeste May, like it says down here on my label, on my Zoom label. And you can find out things that I'm doing musically. You can also go to my YouTube channel, Angela Celeste May. Everything's Angela Celeste May or Dr. Angela Celeste May. You find me. My YouTube channel, in which I do have some posts that have to do with well-being and on the psychology side a bit, but it's mainly dealing with music. So I have vocal quick tips, teaching people about genres of music, and just a lot of music related content there. At Reverb Nation, you can also purchase the singles or the entire CDs of my two albums, my two CDs. And in terms of my book, it's in a Kindle, it's electronic version. There's the soft cover, there's the hard cover. You can go to barnesandnoble.com, you can go to amazon.com. You can also go to iTunes for my second album, which is called Reintroducing the Lady. First album is called No Limits. All of that, just look for Dr. Angela Celeste May or Angela Celeste May. You certainly can find me on all of the, not all, but many of the socials, Facebook, Angela Celeste May. Dr. Angela Celeste May is my music Facebook. You can go to, I'm on Instagram, my company with my sister, as well as personal. And I already mentioned YouTube, also LinkedIn. You can go there as well. Things that I have coming up. I've got lots of stuff coming up. I'm going to be singing at the Detroit Institute of Arts in Saturday. It's coming Saturday, and that's for I don't do weddings that much often anymore, but this is a wonderful honor I was asked to sing, and it's a rare opportunity where I get to perform with both my siblings, my brother and sister. So we're performing for that. That's going to be lovely. I'm also going to be at the Music Hall November 8th, performing in the Aretha Franklin Cafe, and that's going to be for a couple of writers and composers who asked me if I would perform the music for the kind of like vignette. So that's going to be really, really cool. It's November 8th. I'm going to be traveling to DC in February. I believe I am. It's going to be confirmed. I may be traveling to speak as part of the Black Caucus, which is the Drug Free Advisory Council is under that. So I may be doing some speaking. So I'll be able to confirm that a little bit later. So yeah, got stuff coming up. I'm still teaching. I do teach private voice and piano at the Marygrove Conservancy here in Detroit. So if you're in the Detroit area, you can contact me at Celeste, M-U-S, so that's CELESTE, M as in music, US and the number 1 at AOL.com. And that is for if inquiries for booking, for performances, for all things music, for teaching, for performances, etc. I think that covered a lot of it. So that's where you can find me.
Excellent, excellent, Dr. Angie. We are so grateful to have you on the show. I can't
Thank
wait till
you.
next month when you come with another exciting topic. And we are always happy to see you perform. I've had the
Thank
pleasure of
you.
watching you, so it is truly a treat. So we are excited to see what else you
Thank
have
you.
coming up. Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. You know, you can find me everywhere on social media as Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Bachelor is spelled Batchelor. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom. You can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope you'll join us on our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.